So I am super excited to introduce our second speaker of the night. Our second speaker is Chloe. And Chloe is the proud parent of a pup named Anakin. Oh my gosh, I probably said that wrong. Anakin. That just shows you I haven't watched Star Wars either. And she's never seen a single Star Wars movie. When her mom starts belting out her favorite opera tunes, you'll find Chloe with noise-canceling headphones and earplugs. Double the protection, double the peace. And before a date, Chloe makes sure to give her potential love interests a personality test. It's the only way to know if they're truly compatible. Chloe, please share your fuck up.
Thank you, Marcia. And I may or may not have used ChatGPT in the process of curating those jokes. So I'm so excited. And actually, Abby and I have actually a few things in common, and one of them being working on a food business on snacks. So I'm excited to share with you my fuck up tonight. So the year was 2019, okay? So this is just before COVID. I was on cloud nine. I was 25 at the time, and I was an account executive at Shopify. And I was a fresh grad, and I was just feeling on top of the world. They had just invited me to speak with the C-suite of Shopify to share my learnings, because I had just come back from London to launch their first office in Europe, and I was like, yeah, a girl boss leaning in. I'm the living proof, and I was so proud. And when I came back to Toronto, I was craving a new challenge. I feel like, okay, well, this is cool and all, but I don't really want to climb the corporate ladder. So seeing that I talk to entrepreneurs every day, selling software to them, I thought, well, like, maybe I can give this a shot. So it was a Friday evening at 8 p.m., and I was just wrapping up work, and a colleague came over to my desk, and his name is Carl, and Carl knocked on my desk, and he said, Chloe, like, can we just like chat and like, catch up? I want to hear about you. So we shared, and we're just shooting the shit, talking about our week, talking about weekends, and he was feeling hungry, and he spotted this Ziploc bag of almonds next to my laptop. And he was looking at it, and I was looking at him, and kind of got the signal that he really wanted to eat that. So I was like, okay, would you like some snacks? And he's like, yeah. And so we kept talking, and he kept eating and eating. And for context, that Ziploc bag of almonds were actually an after-work snack that I would give to my boyfriend. It was a little gift, because he really loved these almonds. They have a special seasoning, and I knew that he loved them so much, so it was supposed to be a surprise. But at the end of the conversation, Carl had finished the entire bag. So one part of me was really happy because, I was like, oh, like, great, he loves my food. But another part of me was like, I'm fucking pissed at you because now you just demolished this gift. And he said, Chloe, you should really, really sell these. And he was so serious. And I thought, well, people say they start businesses all the time, And the thing with working at Shopify is that everyone is super entrepreneurially minded, that every other day you would just come by a business idea and be like, oh, let's monetize it. Let's grow this on Etsy. Let's sell on Shopify. So I was desensitized to it. And what happened was 2 weeks later, he actually came by my desk again. And he knocked on my desk again, and he's like, Chloe, where is that truckload of almonds? I really want them by my door. And I thought, I actually kind of forgot about the conversation. And he came in and he said, well, listen, Chloe, like that time when I had those almonds on that Friday night, that was really special. Like I walked home that night reminiscing about the flavors and the profile, and I can't stop thinking about it. They were so delicious. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe he's actually serious. And so I was like, I don't know. I've never done a food business before. And from there, he was like, you know what? It's fine. Like, I'll set you up. Like, there's like a, quick blueprint. I'll set you up with this guy, and he's going to share with you how to start a snack company. So I followed his guidance, And it seemed like it was actually tangible. It didn't seem so out of reach. It seemed like, okay, these are within my core capabilities. I can put some effort in and can actually make it work. And so I started experimenting in my mom's kitchen. And I started off with just making everyone, and I mean everyone, my family and friends, to taste test my almonds. And they loved it. But I still wanted external validation from the market. So I would actually get up really early in the morning and get off a TTC stop earlier on and just harass people on the street while they're like busy walking down Bay Street. I'd be like, would you like some almonds? And people would be like, what the fuck? But that's the thing, being in sales, you get really good with rejection. So I just needed like a few people who actually agreed to taste test. And for me, it was capturing that initial facial expression, right? Like if they roll their eyes back and like they're leaning in for that second or third almond from my sketchy Ziploc bag, I know I've nailed it. So I did this for weeks and did it after work as well. And soon I built the confidence to actually move forward. And once I built that confidence, I decided to pitch it to Shopify as an office snack. And at first, they started off with, a pilot test with 50 bags, and I was like, great, like we can start with that. And it went really well, and it spread like wildfire. And from there, they were like, okay, let's up it from 50 to 100 to 150, right, like week by week, and I slowly, gradually built up that volume. And as a reference here, this is one of the 3 clothing irons that I went through from my mom. So I learned in the snack industry is that you can actually use a clothing iron to seal the packages. It's the same thing as these super expensive thousands of dollars heat stamp things. So this is my hacky thing. What did So word spread, and when I mean it was wildfire, it really was. It spread to multiple offices within Shopify. People were loving it. And soon it got to the hands of these executives from Google and Facebook and like leaders from Netflix. And I was like, this is so interesting. Like I can't even wrap my head around this. And I also learned that internally at Shopify, there was a secret Slack channel where whenever the almonds would drop, like in this group specifically, they would just announce that the almonds have dropped. And people would go run up and like hoard it. So for me, I was really proud, and I was like, wow, this is so lovely, like, because I put a lot of love into it, and I'm glad that it's receiving this attention. And throughout the process, I had my friends, my mom, who was the only one standing with the retirement just now. She was helping me with this process, and I'm just so grateful in the entire operations process because she was really the backbone to make sure that I hit the deadlines and the milestones to make sure I actually deliver on time. And this is where shit really hit the fan. So I received a message saying from the head of culinary that we absolutely cruise through the almonds in these 3 offices. Not sure if you're looking to be stocked in the regular, but if so, we need to 4x that initial volume as a ballpark. So, mind you, I was still having a full-time sales job at this time, but I think when you're in tech world, you're kind of delusional and you're just like, growth, hockey stick, yes, I'm gonna do it. And I never thought of capacity, or anything like that. So I agreed, and yeah, it was fucked, needless to say. I found this meme, I was telling Marcia, I feel like this meme actually was made for me, but I did have a Fitbit tracker at the time. And while I was just navigating, doing regular tasks, I would look, and it would register at 100 to 110 on a regular. And I was like, this is abnormal. And soon the anxiety started to get more and more intense, and then they escalated into anxiety attacks, right? Has anyone had anxiety attacks before? Okay, there are a few in the room. And then from there, has anyone had panic attacks? Interesting. Yeah, so can anyone share what it's like when you're having a panic attack?
Okay. It starts with you feel like there's ginger ale in the back of your head.
Oh, ginger ale in the back of head.
Yeah, it's bubbly.
Bubbly, okay.
And then it just feels like you're going to die.
Yeah, it feels like you're gonna die. Anyone else?
Can't breathe.
Can't breathe.
Heart starts beating really fast.
Heart starts beating really fast. Exactly. Yes. And these are all of the classic symptoms of panic attacks. I didn't know what was going on. I honestly thought I was going to die on most days. And I felt like I completely lost touch with my body and my mind. And I was going crazy. Like after every meeting, I would just start bawling my eyes out, or I would start getting triggered over everything. And I was even debilitated in bed because I just couldn't move. I literally just lost connection with my body, and I felt completely demoralized and debilitated. So this was actually journal entries, super personal. So I have this thing where every morning I would write out my affirmations, and then 3 things I'm grateful for, and then tasks, like 3 important tasks. And just to show you, this little insight, in the second thing that I wrote I'm grateful for is that I wrote, I'm grateful that I have no anxiety or negative thoughts when I came home. First time in years. It's as if like that anxiety was like a lifestyle and it was so normal. And on top of that, in that first item, I wrote, last night when Dad is having multiple seizures and unconscious, I felt calm. And so for context, my dad at this point had been suffering from a rare brain autoimmune illness for 3 years. And he, at this point in this season, the doctors basically told us that, we don't know how long he's gonna live, so just prepare yourself. So every week of Q4 2019, my entire family was very much thinking of, is he gonna die? Oh, he's not gonna die? So next week, right? And it sounds really grim, but it's almost like that became our coping, right? Like just like preparing ourselves for this early grievance process, because it could happen at any time, and we're just anticipating for that death. And so this analogy to capture what was going on at the time would be a 3-legged stool. So, they say you want to get a good support, you want to have 3-legged stool to support you. And each, one by one, just demolished and crumbled down. So first was relationship with my poor mom. Because of my panic attacks and anxiety attack, and eventually I was diagnosed with clinical depression and anxiety, I was just screaming at her all the time, and we would have these really bitter relationship and many nights that would end up in tears. And then the second was my dad eventually passed away a few days before Christmas of 2019. And I harbor a lot of guilt because in that past 3 years, I only visited him twice. So for any good Asian daughter, what I'm talking about, it's just like I felt extremely shameful and shitty about myself that I can't even honor and bring honor to the family because I didn't have the courage to see him. And lastly, the last leg is I broke up with my boyfriend. And this is the person that I originally attributed the business to. And he was the reason that the almonds business was around. And the story was that he actually moved all the way from Denmark to be with me here in Canada, and he was a big part of that inspiration. And being in the CPG space, a big part of it is being able to sell with your story, to differentiate. And I felt that when our relationship was no longer a thing, it felt really inauthentic. I couldn't sell it. Like I knew I had the good product, but I couldn't go in and do it and sell it with my soul. So after I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, went on a long healing journey. So went through the antidepressants, had all the healing modalities, and I also, I shouldn't say experiment, but antidepressants, all the things that you can think of to really rebuild myself, because what I've learned in this journey is that when I don't even have these professional accolades and I'm no longer productive, I frankly don't know who I am anymore. I knew I worked hard, but just as equally, my ego was so fragile that the moment I'm not working anymore, I just lost all sense of meaning. And so that was when I really need to figure out and do a lot of searching to figure out what I need to do next and who I am in this world. So that healing journey took 2 years, and now I'm in a place where I realize it's not so much about the external relationships. So in the previous slide, I showed the three-legged stool, and now I have a table as another analogy. But most importantly, the biggest lesson I've learned is not necessarily the relationships, the external relationships that were the support. It's more so the relationship that I had with myself. I was extremely confused. I didn't know how to take care of myself, no sense of self-love or self-care. I didn't know any of that. And I was only seeking for external validation. So now I really prioritize on nurturing my inner spirit, my inner health. So the mind, body, spirit, that's one pillar. I worked on rebuilding and repairing my relationship with my mom. I love you, Mom. And then the third, thank you. And then all along in this very confusing journey, I realized there was nothing wrong inherently with the boyfriend. It was me who actually changed. And I discovered that I'm actually not straight. Which, if it wasn't for that relationship break, I wouldn't have had the freedom to let go, to really explore, to understand all of this. So I also have a really beautiful girlfriend here in the room today. And I've since left the tech world. I no longer run NØDI, and that freed up the space and for room to think of what to do next. And what I'm doing now is I am running Superneuro. I'm building Superneuro, where I help high-achieving, empathetic female business people who are experiencing anxiety and stress to find their inner calm and joy. Something I wish I had when I was highly stressed. And I am also a master's student at Harvard now, where I'm researching the neuroscience of hypnosis, because hypnosis is one of the most powerful tools I've come across in my journey. So that is my story, and I encourage you to leave this room if there are relationships that may not be the way you wanted, whether that's friendships or family, I encourage you to reflect, because oftentimes it's the relationship you have with your inner self that's being reflected on the outside. Thank you.
Chloe, thank you so much for sharing your story. It was truly a journey, and I think it's such an interesting thing to think about, that the business itself was so successful and had so much potential, but sometimes it's the fuck up isn't the business. It's the other surrounding factors, the mental health, your relationships, and lots of other factors in between. And I think that's such an important thing to note with Fuckup Nights, that failure really just doesn't happen in a bubble. And I love your analogy with the stool and then moving to the table. So I'd love to open it up for some Q&A for Chloe. I think we'll have time for maybe 2 or 3 questions. And yeah, we'll get a mic runner to come to you.